This video features only speculations and theories based off of my knowledge of the franchise. It could end up false, true, or anywhere in between. I do not take responsibilities for any spoilers or misinformation that may result from this video. This video will be quite lengthy, in-depth, and will feature a lot of observations, details, and analysis of both the E3 trailer and potential story of Resident Evil 7. I am not in any way affiliated with or endorsed by Capcom. All opinions are my own. Thank you and enjoy. It all began in 1998, in that mansion where the madness of one man would set off the beginning of the end of Raccoon City. Though Umbrella's story is vast and spans across generations, this very event marks the beginning of an infamous franchise dear to many survival horror fans. In many ways, you could say that Resident Evil is the pinnacle of survival horror gaming. Released in 1996, Resident Evil 1 brought many new things to gaming, from the fixed camera angles and pre-rendered backgrounds to being one of the first games to feature voice acting.
Wow, what a mansion!
Captain Wesker, where's Chris?
Stop it! Don't open that door!
What is it?
Blood. Hope this is not Chris's blood.
Isn't it just ironic, beautiful, that 20 years later, in 2016, we would see the announcement of Resident Evil 7, and that it will be one of the first games to feature VR. Seems like Resident Evil holds on to its track record for being innovative and helping form and shape the survival horror industry. But one question that echoes in a lot of Resident Evil fans' minds right now surely must be, where is Capcom taking the story? Based off of the trailer and demo, I see some clear hints and patterns, and I want to share them with you today. But first, let's take a look at some facts about the Resident Evil 7 demo to clear up any confusions. These facts have all been confirmed by Resident Evil 7's producer Masachika Kawata and Capcom themselves. The game is supposedly entirely in first person. It will have full VR support, but VR is entirely optional. I think that first person is a good substitute for the fixed camera angles, as it retains the same result. You can't look around corners and you don't know what's coming. You're vulnerable. In general, I feel that at this point I prefer first person for this genre rather than the same old third person over the shoulder perspective. The story and location of the demo will not be in Resident Evil 7 itself. The demo's purpose is simply to showcase the new RE engine, but also to give us a taste of the type of mood, tone, and atmosphere that they want to set for the game without spoiling anything from Resident Evil 7 itself. In other words, take everything you see in the demo with a pinch of salt. However, some of the content can provide clues for the story of Resident Evil 7, and there are parallels to the Resident Evil universe, for those who look close enough. You could say there are little breadcrumbs of Resident Evil spread across the demo for us to find. For this reason, I have decided to focus only on the potential story of Resident Evil 7 rather than the demo story. The story will not be supernaturally oriented, Capcom says, and everything will eventually make sense. Fans who worry about this being some PT or Outlast ripoff don't need to worry. The game will be canonical, tie in with the rest of the games, and have continuity of the series. The character cast in Resident Evil 7 will be entirely new, no old returning characters. However, this doesn't mean that older characters can't make cameos or that they won't be referenced. This is Resident Evil after all, and Capcom have hinted at surprises in store for us. The demo is set in the deep south of the US, Louisiana specifically, known for its swamps and bayous. The house visited heavily resembles a plantation. It appears that the deep south setting will be relevant in Resident Evil 7 itself somehow as well. Though the date indicated on the tape in the demo is June 1st, 2017, it's still possible we will explore events both before and after this date. Guns have been confirmed for the game, as is shown by the menu's aim assist option. Green herbs will also return as healing items, a Resident Evil tradition. Capcom have been working hard to eliminate and strip a lot of the elements from Resident Evil 6, such as QTEs and hordes of enemies. Instead, they said they want to work with fewer enemies, but more personal encounters. They have confirmed that the days of QTEs are over, and that the director took huge inspiration from Resident Evil 1 when making and writing Resident Evil 7. With these facts out of the way, let's take a look at some interesting screenshots from the trailer and important details I think are worth to consider when analyzing this demo. This area doesn't have the derelict look of the rest of the house. It's brighter and cleaner, albeit the windows are still barred. Outside we see someone with a flashlight, most likely the recording crew we play as in the tape. Someone or something is watching us. Do they see things differently? Or is this a flashback that we don't see in the demo? I think it's most likely on the same night that the team arrives to the house. This room is clearly somewhere in the house in its present state, but it doesn't resemble any of the other known rooms. It may not mean anything, but it could be an indicator that there's more to uncover in this demo. A dog or wolf. I am unsure whether it's disintegrating naturally or in the typical Plaga style, but these dogs do remind me of the ones in Resident Evil 4. It could mean that we will see Plaga-like enemies again. Throughout the trailer, we see tendrils and vines spreading across pictures and walls. These heavily resemble the tentacles from the Annie alpha parasite, Nemesis in other words, or Lisa, whom they were first extracted from. But these could also be Plaga tendrils, or, according to some people, Ouroboros. I don't think it's the latter, as Ouroboros looks more slimy and ink-like, while these look sturdier. Maybe it's too early to speculate, but the key here is the resemblance to former viruses or parasites. Many believe that this is Lisa Trevor. While I do see that there are many hints and references to the Trevor's tragic fate in the demo, I don't see this being her. This woman may sound a lot like Lisa, but she is not deformed enough to be her. My theory is that the woman was specifically designed to remind us of Lisa, so there could be a clue to Resident Evil 7's plot. I think the woman is the family man's wife, or maybe even his daughter, as her frame is much smaller and thinner than the woman in the picture who's standing next to the tall man. If this monster is the family man's daughter, that shows another similarity between the Bakers and Trevors. Both have daughters who became terrible creatures. Similar to some of the other newspaper shots you see of the Raccoon Daily in various other Resident Evil games, this is another one of those images that's meant to invoke thoughts about the initial outbreak or about the older Resident Evil games. This newspaper also mentions something about ghosts sighted in Bayou. The ghosts could, for all intents and purposes, be metaphors for BOWs. Bayou is another word for swampy type of area, confirms the deep south setting and location. The newspaper also says something about over 30 missing in 2 years, implying that someone or something has been abducting people. Maybe even our infamous pharmaceutical company. Remember this note for later. I will return to this. This doesn't look like any of our protagonists, or the hostile man in the demo. Could someone else be here with us? This is clearly our family man, dragging the protagonist out. He's carrying a woman over his shoulder, probably his monster wife. Is she dead, subdued, or just unconscious? Where is he taking them and why? Could this be a clue about the events between the tape and the demo start? Maybe the time gap between the taping recorded and seen isn't big at all. A shotgun propped up. Hidden in game, or just a prop? Also notice that the same picture as the one on the fireplace to the right. The couple are the violent man and the monster wife. The picture reoccurs often in the trailer. a creepy couple. No doubt the owners, overlooking their house. This is probably one of the strangest images from the trailer. A doll head, partially melted, with a red candle behind it and red wax in its face. This probably somehow ties in with the celluloid finger. No wonder many people think that causing a fire to burn the finger and melt it is the true solution to the dummy finger mystery. This is one of the images that jumped out the most at me. A thin, frail man in a wheelchair with a quilt over his lap. Some have said that this may be a woman, but the right round shape is not a breast, it's actually a shoulder. Above him you can see a stairway and railing, very similar to those of the Spencer estate. This is undoubtedly Oswald E. Spencer. I will return to this in a moment. The long hair is the most noticeable thing about this picture, but whether this is a man or a woman is a bit hard to decide. The facial features look slightly more masculine, so do the arms, but the shoulders look more feminine. But this could very well be a woman as well, cradling a child. If this is a man, it's very likely that this could be James Marcus's reincarnation, one of the original founders of Umbrella, and Spencer's long-term partner and rival. If this, however, is a woman, this could be a reference to Lisa's mother, Jessica, cradling Lisa as a baby in her arms. A young woman with short, dark hair. Her face looks very similar to Moira Burton, Barry Burton's daughter, or even Rebecca Chambers. Could this be a clue that Resident Evil 7 will feature either of the ladies or tie in with their storyline somehow? Some have said that this may also be Ada Wong, but the woman in the picture appears to be much younger than Ada. Unless this is a picture of Ada from when she was much younger. I think we covered the most interesting images overall. There are other ones, shots of a white car at dusk, but this could just be the filming crew arriving at the house. There are many signs of what happened to the Baker family, but also many breadcrumbs leading our thoughts back to Resident Evil. And it's in the mixture of these two that my theories are found. I present you with some interesting things and theories of what I think may happen in Resident Evil 7. Many people, including myself, noticed this serial number in the VHS tape when playing the demo. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I knew I'd seen it somewhere. Someone posted this image online, showing that this is in fact a PlayStation serial code, and look which game it points to. It's no coincidence that the producer is a huge fan of Resident Evil 1 and took inspiration from it when directing Resident Evil 7. Adding on the images above that remind us of events in Resident Evil 1, along with the serial number, this paints a clear picture. My theory is that this also is no coincidence, that this points towards a version of Resident Evil 1 that features a demo of Resident Evil 2. Maybe this is a far stretch, but I really suspect that we might get a Resident Evil 2 remastered demo with Resident Evil 7. There is no doubt which corporation this helicopter belongs to. Could this just be a hint at resolving the mystery of the elusive dummy finger? I really don't think so. This picture reminds me of supervision, Umbrella controlling and watching over their subjects as they always have. A healthy portion of Umbrella's test subjects were former employees or those who had somehow been affiliated with or betrayed the company. Umbrella would often go for scavenge hunts across the world, kidnapping and abducting people in search of the perfect genetic match, so that they could conduct further research on the progenitor and tyrant viruses. Umbrella would often prey on those who were less fortunate in society, poorer people, farmers, etc. Could they have kept an eye on the family with the intention of using them for some form of experimentations? This is also supported by the local newspaper shown in the trailer, which mentions that many people have gone missing from the local area. This leads me into another very important clue. In 1966, Oswald E. Spencer, James Marcus, and Edward Ashford, the three founders of Umbrella, which was to be formed 1 year later, researched viruses that had the potential to genetically enhance and evolve living organisms. Their research and leads took them to West Africa, where they had heard rumors of a flower possessing traits that could mutate and strengthen their hosts. The Ndipaya tribe, who had thrived off of this plant and used it for rituals of ascension, were subdued by the three men's forces. The three found the flower growing in its natural habitat underground in the Sun Garden. They called this the progenitor flower and immediately undertook research of the progenitor virus. To make a long story short, cultivation issues delayed the process by about a year, but they finally managed to cultivate the virus by injecting it into a human test subject back in the Spencer estate, who happened to be Lisa Trevor. Progenitor turned out to be too strong for most humans to absorb. So to enhance compatibility with humans, Progenitor was created in a weaker state, the T virus. This fits the timeline perfectly, as Spencer had delusions of grandeur, believing he was destined to bring the human race into a new step of evolution, believing himself to be god of this new race. He had ambitions unknown to his peers, and had prior to this commissioned the creation of a mansion in the Arclay region of Raccoon City, with an underground research facility. Upon completing the design and construction of the mansion, George Trevor, the architect, was disposed of, and his wife Jessica and daughter Lisa were used for experiments. Lisa and Jessica were injected with 2 separate strains of the progenitor virus, but while her mother died, Lisa kept absorbing and adapting to the virus, turning more and more grotesque by the day. For almost 30 years, she was used as a basis of experiments, and it is because of Lisa that the T and G strains of the virus exist. There are also many other similarities between the Trevor and the Baker family. Umbrella watching over the Bakers, as the helicopter picture may suggest, just as Umbrella watched over and made plans about the Trevors. One interesting comparison is also the lyrics of the trailer song, as it strongly reminds us of Lisa Trevor's tragic fate.
I was raised in a deep, dark hole, a prisoner with no parole. They locked me up and took my soul.
Could the Bakers be an alternate version of the Trevors? Maybe Resident Evil 7 will feature more details about them, Spencer's earlier research, his delusional obsessions with a superior human race and becoming God? Though Spencer was killed by Wesker in 2006, Resident Evil 7 could shed more light on him and his past. Maybe we'll learn more about the progenitor virus and the origin and causes of what drove Spencer over the edge. Spencer's excursions to Africa could explain why the area in the demo looks like a plantation. Maybe Spencer, along with his men, retrieved slaves back along with the progenitor samples, and Resident Evil 7 could fill us in as to why. The family is often mentioned in the demo, and many have speculated if this could have dual meanings. On my first playthrough, when I saw the family, I was reminded immediately of Simmons and his family in Resident Evil 6. The family is an ancient organization founded even prior to the existence of the United States by Simmons' ancestors. Their standing is one of incredible socio-economical power and wealth, and their ambition is to retain global balance in order to ensure that the United States remains at the top of the pyramid of world hierarchy. Derek C. Simmons was the man responsible for ordering the destruction of Raccoon City back in 1998, and ordering the assassinations of the US President and old friend Adam Benford years later. Simmons' plans were stopped by Leon and Helena in Resident Evil 6. Simmons learned that the family betrayed him right before he was defeated by the DSO duo. Ada Wong also has strong ties with the family, playing her usual games of cat and mouse. To what extent she was involved remains shrouded in mystery, but it is known that Simmons was obsessed with Ada, even till the point of cloning one of his researchers into her, Carla Radames. Moving on, the woman speaking to us on the phone in the demo sounds an awful lot like Ada. Connecting this theory with my last one, maybe the family played a bigger part in the assistance of viral research development than we ever thought possible. Maybe the family's role in Resident Evil's past is just as big as its role in the present. I have one last theory and lead for this demo, which relates to Resident Evil Revelations 2. Alex Wesker, the game's main antagonist, was one of two of the most known and prestigious participants of the Wesker project, the other one being Albert Wesker. Having a rivalry with Albert Wesker for Spencer's attentions and spoils, she was granted funds for her own research facility at a remote island, Sushestvovanye. Working behind Spencer's back, she grafted her own ambition onto the research, wishing to attain immortality. To achieve this, Alex needed to transfer her conscience and her essence into another younger body. The ritual is very similar to voodoo, and bears strong resemblances to the movie The Skeleton Key, about a spirit needing younger women's bodies as vessels to live eternally. Alex used the T-Phobos virus, a strain responding to the host's psyche and fears, to search for a compatible vessel. As the virus mutates the host upon fear, she needed a host incapable of feeling it, and it turns out that young Natalia Korda, whose home city, Terra Grigia, had been destroyed in a bioterrorist attack in 2004, was incapable of feeling fear. She seized hold of Natalia and let the virus mold and mature within her body for 6 months, eventually attempting the transfer ritual, which involved committing suicide. But in her final moments, however, Alex felt fear and mutated grotesquely. Alex was defeated by Barry Burton and Claire Redfield. After the incident, Barry and Moira decided to adopt Natalia as their own, having formed a strong bond with her. But sometime later, something inside of Natalia awoke, and she became obsessed with the same dark Kafka poetry Alex had been obsessed with. It is implied that Alex's conscience finally awoke within Natalia. With all this into consideration, take another look at the strong voodoo themes in the demo. The voodoo dolls, the dummies, the spirits. The deep woods and the swampy areas are commonly depicted as sources for voodoo practice. And Alex was in possession of many similar voodoo dolls right before her death. Is it such a far stretch to assume that maybe Natalia returns as the main antagonist with a new, polished T-Phobos virus or another sinister agenda? Alex's legacy would live on through her for sure. And this theory is also supported by the trailer's picture of a woman whose eyes are scratched out. She looks young and an awful lot like Moira. The two characters have a clear relationship, and if this is Moira, the likelihood of Natalia appearing is high. As Revelations 2 wraps up around the same time as Resident Evil 6's timeline, this theory seems even more plausible for RE7. To sum up all my theories, I do believe that Resident Evil 7 will feature an entirely new cast, but we could end up learning so much about Umbrella's past, along with this new potential threat. Old and new, now and then, flashbacks and current events. In the Resident Evil 7 demo, one of the phone calls says, "Memories hold a truth, don't let appearances mislead you." Naturally, this reference is a clue for the demo itself, but could also reflect that we will delve deep into some of the memories of Resident Evil. There may be details that I've forgotten or left out, but this concludes my theories for Resident Evil 7. Do you agree? Disagree? If so, let me know what you think in the comments section. If you truly value Resident Evil as a hardcore fan and care for lore and details that go far beyond average perspectives, this is definitely the channel for you. Anything and everything Resident Evil will be on this channel, so subscribe and you won't miss a thing. Don't forget to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed my theories. Thank you so much guys for watching, and peace out.